In the Parker house, silence had a strange weight. It wasn't peaceful. It wasn't comforting. It wasn't the kind of quiet that helped you sleep. It was the kind that made you listen too closely. Ethan learned early how to walk softly. Not because anyone told him to, but because loud footsteps made his father look up. And when his father looked up, something usually followed. Not yelling, not violence, but the kind of disappointment that felt heavier than sound. David Parker didn't believe he was a cruel man. He believed in structure. He believed in discipline. He believed his job as a father was not to be soft, but to be strong. And to David, strong meant rules. Kitchen chairs had to be pushed in perfectly, shoes placed side by side, homework finished before dinner, not after. Answers to questions had to be quick, direct, and correct. If they weren't, David didn't raise his voice. He raised his silence. And silence, in that house, could last for days. Ethan learned to dread it. He was 13 now, tall for his age, thin in that fragile way boys become when they stretch too fast. He wore hoodies even at home, sleeves pulled down over his palms. He spoke quietly, thought quietly, and he tried every day not to give his father a reason to go quiet. His mother Lisa tried to soften things when she could, but when she came home tired, she often didn't have the strength to push back against her husband's rules. David never yelled at her. He didn't need to. One night, Ethan forgot to take the trash out. Just once. David looked at him from across the table. "Trash," he said quietly. Ethan froze, then rushed to stand. I forgot. I'm sorry. David raised one finger. That was the signal. Stop talking. Ethan grabbed the bag and took it outside, heart already heavy. When he returned, the house had changed. No TV, no conversation, no goodnight. Just silence. It stretched from the kitchen into the hallway, followed Ethan into his room, curled beside him under his blanket. This was the punishment. Being unseen, unheard, unforgiven. Ethan stared at his ceiling that night, stomach tight and throat sore. He whispered his apology into the dark not because he thought his father would hear, but because he wished someone would. Ethan's teachers used words like quiet and well-behaved in their meetings. They meant it kindly. But no one asked why he flinched when names were called too suddenly, or why he froze when he thought he had done something wrong. David called it respect. Ethan called it fear. It followed him through school like a shadow. Other boys joked loudly, failed tests, and shrugged, laughed in the hallway. Ethan watched them like they were another species. How did they breathe so easily? He carried his father and his head everywhere. That clean voice of disappointment, the exact tone that meant something had gone wrong. At home, the rules multiplied when David felt out of control at work. If the factory ran poorly, the house ran silent. If David felt powerless, Ethan felt small. One evening, Ethan failed a math test. He brought the paper home folded twice. He waited until after dinner. "Dad, I need to show you something." David didn't look angry when he read it. That was worse. He took the paper, folded it once, then placed it on the table, and said nothing. Ethan sat there, unmoving, waited. Minutes passed. Then David stood, walked past him, and locked the study door. That night, no dinner, no questions, no forgiveness. Just the door between them, like a wall. Ethan cried silently into his pillow, choking his sobs so no one would hear. Not because he'd be punished,
but because he feared being seen breaking. He started hiding things after that. Not just mistakes, feelings, pain, everything real. Fear taught him silence. Lisa noticed Ethan shrinking, not physically, emotionally. He stopped laughing, stopped asking questions, stopped arguing. He stopped being 13. When she finally confronted David, it was quiet, like everything else in their house. "You're scaring him," she said simply. David scoffed. "I'm raising him." "No, you're training him to disappear." That changed something. Not in Ethan, in David. For the first time, David sat alone in his study and wondered, had discipline become distance? A week later, the school counselor called. Ethan hadn't spoken, but he had written. In an anonymous journal exercise, he had written about a boy who lived in a house without sound and thought love meant obedience. The counselor knew. David didn't, until Lisa told him what Ethan had written. David read the words twice, then a third time, and something unfamiliar happened. Not anger, not disappointment, guilt. Real guilt. The kind that had weight. David sat on Ethan's bed that night. First time. In years. "I don't know how to talk to you," David said honestly. Ethan didn't answer. "I thought being hard would make you strong," David continued, voice uneven. "But I think I only taught you how to be afraid." Neither of them cried, but something inside both of them cracked.
Healing didn't come in a speech. It came in small things. David learning how to knock. David answering questions instead of ignoring them. David listening, really listening, even when it was uncomfortable. Ethan didn't trust it at first. Kindness felt suspicious, like silence used to. But slowly, the air changed. One night, Ethan failed another quiz. He brought it home with shaking hands. But this time, David didn't go silent. He sighed, then said, "Let's figure this out together." That sentence rebuilt something, one word at a time. Lisa noticed. Ethan noticed. The house noticed. It breathed differently. One evening, David found Ethan sitting on the back steps alone. "Why do you always sit out here?" David asked gently. Ethan thought, then said, "It's quiet, but not the scary kind." David sat beside him, and for the first time, silence didn't punish. It held them. David learned that discipline without love becomes fear. Ethan learned that fear doesn't have to be forever. They weren't perfect, but they were real. And for the first time, that was enough.